What's going on, guys? Sam Richards, Isolation Movement here. Today we're going to be talking about my 5-year natural bodybuilding transformation between the years of 2013 and 2018, exactly how I did it, how I went from an 154 pounds skinny fat guy with tits all the way through to a 200-pound guy with tits. So let's talk year one. Year one was where I went from 154 pounds down to 140. In my eyes, I did it the right way. I feel like, although I probably could have gained more muscle, the key priorities for me were losing as much body fat as possible and looking more muscular. Whether or not I was big didn't really play a factor here. I'd spent my whole life being small and being fat. So, okay, I can deal with being small if I'm muscular. You know, I didn't really know any huge guys back then because nobody was messing with anabolics. Nobody was really at a point of advanced training. So I didn't have that to look up to. And I hadn't yet really discovered bodybuilding in its true form. So year one was a lot of volume. It was a lot of, newbie weight. I was never really strong going into it, except maybe on chest and a little bit on legs. Already having legs built up from the rugby playing and from a lot of running beforehand before I discovered the gym. So I had those strong points, I guess, going into it that were aesthetic weaknesses, but strength-wise, they didn't suffer. Now, once I got into 140 pounds and about 10 to 12% body fat, I said, you know what, I'm not getting abs. I don't have the muscle bellies there in order to actually build a set of abs that will look impressive. And why am I going to cut the rest of my muscle off my body, which I had hardly any anyway? I mean, you can see here that, I was lean, sure, but I was by no means big. So I thought, screw it, let's start a bulk. And at this point, I was on the optimum nutrition serious mass, the pure sugar, the terrible junk foods, the let's just sit down and eat a cake. But at the end of the day, it worked. I never really went above 15% body fat. I got back up to the 11 stone, 154 pounds. And all in all, my strength started to finally increase, though, of course, I wasn't focusing on this. But during that time, I was training in a bodybuilding gym, a Spit and Sawdust national champions training ground. And it does put everything else into perspective. And that's the first time I really discovered bodybuilding. I was walking through the corridors and we'd see that, here, this guy's the Masters champion for Britain. This guy's competed here. This guy's competed here. Oh, look, this guy's just back from a competition where he won the British Nationals. And it kind of made me think, is this a thing? Is competing and actually getting rewarded for this work? Is this a thing? And looking like that, and that's the reward you get, that's amazing. But although I knew I had potential there aesthetically, considering how well my proportions had panned out in the first couple of years, and, I could manipulate my body quite easily without much strict work, I knew that was a far-off dream. Definitely a far-off dream. I think I even thought it was closer than it was. Looking back now, I'm sat at 200 pounds. Back then I was 154, 155. I know that I've still got a long way to go to be able to step on a classic physique stage. So in summary there, running up to the 3-year point, I trained with no gym, being a very poor person pretty much at the time due to personal issues, which I can delve into another time if you want me to, but for now we'll keep it fitness. And then I went into year 2 training in an old school bodybuilding gym. The change happened year 3. Year 3, I decided that my sales job was not rewarding. I worked in debt management, debt recovery. Being someone who was in debt at the time, didn't really feel that sense of pride in what I was doing. So I went, you know what? I need to be in a gym right now. That's the one thing I need. Do I want to be a personal trainer? I don't know yet. So where's the best place to figure all that out? Well, it's in a gym. And I found somewhere called David Lloyd Clubs in the UK, one of the premium fitness chains. Now, in their fairness, they had a great induction process. They introduced me to the true world of sales, in terms of influence, behavior, psychology. And they had a very flexible schedule in terms of when you could work out. It was really great. You had to know almost as much as a PT just to guide people around the gym and to work there. So that was great. That was rewarding. That was a great time to focus on my fitness. But once again, surrounded by some larger people, some champions again in the bodybuilding world, Nobody really aesthetic, and that's what really drove me. I think knowing that I was one of the more aesthetic people, I was like, right, okay, let's now chase this size to go with the proportions. And that's what I did. I was gaining. I did fairly well. I was still on a bit of a rabbit diet, still cutting and bulking and going through the motions. And I think by the end of that, I was probably about 160 odd pounds and probably about 15% body fat. You can see there's a nice old gap there. My lower lats, they insert quite high. So that's really what I was focusing on during this time. And I built the muscle where I felt necessary. This is what you need to be doing. You need to be breaking everything down, analysing where you are, picking a physique and going, okay, how do I compare to that? If I think realistically I could look like that with my genetics and the way I'm structured, then how do I do it? Where are my weaknesses that I need to build on? This is what I did a lot of the time. I was looking at people like, I guess guys like Joseph Rakic, even up to Callum von Mogers and size. There wasn't really a limit on who I'd look at as inspiration, but I'd pick little bits and I'd go, okay, I love his back. How do I get there? This is what you need to be doing: proportions, and building muscle where needed. But my core mistake was bulking and cutting. This is a time whereby I was fairly lean. I was fairly average, size-wise. 160 pounds is still very small, even for a natural. So I should have lean bulked. All that time I could have been growing. I was doing mini cuts and trying to stay lean when I'd never really gotten fluffy. And that is really where year 4 came in. Now, I'd love to say that year 4, year 5, year 6, I was regimented, I was as committed as I was before, but that would just be lying. Year 4 is where I moved to working in London, the capital of England, sorry. It was an exciting world. I stepped up to proper sales. Through connections, I managed to get myself a proper B2B sales job with a great salary. I was working a lot. I was traveling a lot. My commute throughout the day was sort of 3-4 hours. So it took a lot of time off my own personal schedule, and I didn't really have a gym in London at this point. So my lunch breaks weren't spent doing that. What I was doing is I was going home and I was training, and it was taking most of my time. I'd get back at maybe 8-9 o'clock at night, and that was my day. And then I'd go to sleep and wake up the next day, get into work late, and repeat it all over again. So some days, some weeks, some months, I would almost have off, and I lapsed a lot during this time. But the one thing it did give me was a rest that I'd never really given myself. Through this bulk and cut cycle, I was always, I've got to maximize my muscle mass during this time, or, I'm cutting down, I've got to minimize muscle loss and accelerate the fat burning process. So I was working out 6-7 days a week. But during this time, it cut down to maybe an average of 3. And the rest really helped me build. I maintained my body fat percentage, give or take, and I was building, as you can see here. I was keeping my good physique. I was taking months off at a time and then going back for a couple of weeks and regaining it all, and that was really the vicious cycle I was in. I only really started to get serious again about a year and a half ago now, which would have been, 2 years ago now, which would have been year 5, so towards the end. And this is where the natural journey really ended. I had spent 9 months back at it full time, pretty much. A new job gave me new, vigor for training. I had a gym round the corner. It was amazing. So I was consistently working out. The gains were slowing. I was 170 pounds, and I thought, right, I need to be at 220 before I look to compete in classic physique. So I wrote that off at first. I thought, no, I'll never get to that size, look at my commitment and everything up till now. And, I thought, okay, men's physique, what do I need to be at for that? And I thought maybe 200 pounds, 205. So let's go for that. And I've been training ever since for that, really, to get up to that size. And anabolics have been introduced, first SARMs, now steroids. And yeah, I'm no longer natural, but looking back, I stuck with the guides. They said 5 years training, perfect, 5 years training in the bag. Not consistent, but I knew my stuff when I wanted to apply it. 25 years old, I was 25 years old. decent lifting numbers. I'm just falling short of that, but that's due to the first 2 or 3 years not being spent on strength. You know, there are guys twice as strong as me after their first year, but I did tend to look a bit better. So that's the wrap really, guys. Look, 5 years a recomp. The best way that I would give you an advice to do it going forward, if you're looking to do this from the same point of view, the same skinny fat guy, then you need to cut down first to the point where you're maybe 15% body fat tops, 10% at the absolute bottom, and then you want to rebuild. You want to look to gain then consistently on a lean bulk basis. You'll gain a lot more in year 2 after you've cut down than you would do if you were, still trying to cut and keep that, that body fat down and trying to gain muscle in a deficit. It's possible, but you're going to lose a lot of the best gains period of your life. Then consistently lean bulk. When you start to get fat, maybe do a short mini cut or recomp, or keep your calories at exactly the same level as maintenance and just let your body slowly change its composition from a bit fatter to a bit more muscular as you rid some body fat and gain some muscle over time. Lean bulking, however, with a slight surplus of 200 to 300 calories is the way I'd do it. Looking back, I would have been a lot bigger by the time I would have looked to go on anabolics. But now I'm sat at 200 pounds. So in the last 12 months, really, of anabolics use, I have gained a sum total of 30 pounds. That's more than I gained in my whole process naturally over 5 years. So it is a night and day situation between natural and enhanced. It's extremely admirable to go the natural route your whole life, and you could have gone way beyond where I did. Look, the fact of the matter is, you shouldn't be scared of getting fat if you once were. Once you've been a few years into training and realistically you have a fairly athletic body, don't be afraid to eat those extra calories, because natural muscle building is much slower. This is what I experienced, and you can see that in the images that I've shown. You need to make sure that you're maximizing your potential for gain and potentially getting a little bit fluffy over time. But then, when you do your one cut every 2 years, 3 years, you're going to see a lot more benefit than if you were to cut every year. If you cut every year, you're just negating the muscle gain. That's what you're doing, and it's counterproductive. There are better methods out there now. We know that. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. This has been the Isolation Movement. That was my 5-year natural transformation. If you want to see where that transformation and my fitness journey has taken me since then, please do check out my other videos, which I'll be posting up here in a sec. And do give me a like and give me a subscribe if you enjoyed this content. I know what works for both. I know what doesn't work for either. So I'm not going to sit here and give you information when I'm juicing and telling natural athletes to do stupid shit. This is going to be a source of real information and stuff that I've learned purely for the advancement of your knowledge. See you in the next one.